to be helping, not making me angry.
No, well, look at me. Look at me. You don't put words in my mouth.
Hey guys, welcome back to Film Trendings. Even the most professional person could have the difficulty dealing with patience. Dr. Phil has helped countless people over the years, either by giving them advice or getting them linked to the right people, for example, doctors, therapists, or even by financially supporting them. However, in some cases, he was not very successful, and other guests claim that he actually worsened their situation. Let's head in to see times when Dr. Phil loses his coolness with his teen. Number 7. You are committing a crime. Phil has a short leash when it comes to mistreating children, and that was on full display in this dramatic episode. This episode features a family that was not functioning the healthy way. The mother of the teenager was feeding her all the inappropriate stuff, which was nothing less than a crime. He continued to explain to the parent how it was not in her bounds to let her teenager do whatever, and then told her, "You are committing a crime," 20 times following it.
You are committing a crime. This is not a matter of opinion. You are...
Number 6. Kicking out an internet stalker. This one is the most legendary episodes on Dr. Phil's show, and this one also has earned the award for being Phil's best reaction of all time. The guest is Bailey, a young adult who liked a stranger's tweet on the internet and promptly fell in love with her. She sent the woman thousands of messages declaring her love, even though they have never met before. After Bailey tried to play the victim, Phil quickly shut the entire interview down, saying he wasn't interested in melodrama and manipulation. He was so heated up at Bailey's behavior that he just totally refused to listen to his problem. It was that bad.
Well, you know what? I think we're just going to shut this down because I'm not into all this melodrama.
Number 5. Silently heated. Sarah's family accuses her of being a negligent mother who was allegedly taking her child to unsuitable places and is hanging out with criminals. Even the court found Sarah to be unfit to take care of her 2-year-old daughter. It was during the interview on Dr. Phil's show that Sarah found out how her family had planted a GPS device on her car to track her moves to ensure the child was safe. As soon as the information spilled, a huge fight broke out on stage and Sarah eventually left. Dr. Phil was just quietly observing the whole situation, and one could clearly say how he was infuriated at the chaos that had broken out on his own show.
Of girls and men going in.
Okay, goodbye. What a joke.
Number 4. Are you kidding me? In this episode, Phil shows 3 adults bickering at a baseball practice where each of them can be heard yelling at each other. They were calling each other crazy and using all forms of insults. One even said that the other should be punched in the face. Phil then began discussing children and literally shook up with anger and said, "Are you kidding me?" After a roasting session, it all ended with Phil leaning back on his chair and saying, "Come on," in a defeated tone. It was apparent how Phil hated children being involved in adult stupidity. We sure respect Dr. Phil for this action.
Are you kidding me?
Number 3. Please have an intelligent conversation. In this episode, we saw a rather composed Dr. Phil while he was still quite mad on the inside. He showed his frustration to his show's guests by saying, "Please let me have an intelligent conversation." He tried to get the guests on the same page as him, but the lady grew quite annoying. All he then did was just sit back and fold his arms until his guest put some sense into herself. The lady continued to speak, and it was time Phil interrupted her and told the story of another guest who was rude to him. This episode was a sum of everything: harsh sentences, folded arms, and interruptions. The man was fuming.
Let me please have an intelligent conversation.
Number 2. Don't put words in my mouth. In this episode, Phil sat down with a couple, Paul and Alaska. Alaska owned a rather unique business where she used provocative photos to market herself, and this led Paul to worry about their personal lives. While defending herself, Alaska went on and above saying that Dr. Phil was insinuating a lot of things and insults that are embarrassing for her. This had Phil lose his mind. He went ahead to tell Alaska that she shouldn't be putting words into stuff before staring her dead in the eye and saying that he isn't afraid of her. This expression pretty much summed up the heat Dr. Phil was feeling at the time.
Helping, not making me angry.
No, well, look at me. Look at me. You don't put words in my mouth.
Number 1. Get a job. A kid came to the show who was so spoiled that Phil had to resort to raising his voice to deal with him. In this episode, an aspiring singer named King Keith Franklin said that being famous was more important to him than any job or education. As such, the 20-year-old lounged in his mother's house hoping to achieve this goal. Unfortunately, his mother wasn't having it, and so wasn't Dr. Phil. He ordered him to pull his own weight and contribute around the house by straight up telling him to get a job. Reality checks can be hard to listen to, especially when it comes from an annoyed Dr. Phil.
Dr. Phil on television and tell yourself that's a life education. Get a job.
Who would have thought people would act as such on the show? Dr. Phil has tried to solve matters as much as he could, and sometimes people he comes across are so dysfunctional that there's no way out for them. It is understandable how Dr. Phil often loses his cool with some people. Anyways, be sure to leave a like on the video if you enjoyed it, and we'll be seeing you guys in the next one.